All right, there we go. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming to the March Coffee and Conversation. We are about 16 minutes away from spring, so that is nice. That is very, very nice. After not a pretty winter, not a pretty winter. It was cold, it was gray, it was snowy, so I hear. Um, so, Steve Lindsay is unable to make it today, so Steve Muller is going to fill two shoes, his own and Steve Lindsay's, for this particular meeting. And then we have our regular cast of characters who are spread throughout. We are here for your questions. We are here for your concerns. We are here for your compliments. I do have the podium out here because I would like to introduce an idea, and I want to make sure that I have my stuff in front of me. So what I ask as I'm introducing this idea is not to read ahead so as to get either frustrated or too excited, but just listen to what I have to say, and then we can take it from there. Sound good? Okay. So, we have approximately 99 cottages on campus. Its round number is 100, but I think the number is 99. Of those cottages, almost all 99 pay for their own electric. I believe everyone is aware of that. And in that electric out comes things like your heat and your air conditioning. What we would like to do, and again, don't read ahead, listen to the whole thing before we have any reaction. What we aim to do in the long term is we would like to, as Frederick Living, like we do in the apartments, like we do in Magnolia House in Aspen Village, we would like to be the one that receive and pay those bills. And we would like to adjust residents' monthly fees based on that bill. Don't read ahead. Okay? How in the world would we get that done? Let's go to the why first. Why would we do this? We would do this for several reasons. One, we have instances where residents, sometimes, that we have witnessed ourselves this winter recently, we have residents who are in contracts with energy suppliers that have a very low introductory rate and then jack up the bills 3 months later. And residents aren't even technically aware that they signed up for it or what the consequences of such things are. That's certainly one of them. Two, we have residents that adjust their way of living to make sure that they reach a certain amount each month only in their bills. We do not want to have any sort of scenario where residents are sacrificing their comfort for their electric bills. So instead, what you would have is one flat monthly fee without that variability of electric bills up and down, worrying about that each month. What we are going to do, this is a definite. Any new person moving into a cottage, we're getting the bill starting day one. That's just part of how you're moving in. Step two, this is a voluntary program that we are going to introduce. We are not going to say, on July 1st, turnover happens, deal with it. Trust me, part of my brain loves that idea because it's way easier for us, right? But that's not how we want to approach it for any of you. We want to check it out, we want to make the offer, and we want to provide that opportunity for anyone that's interested. We think it's going to be the right thing for the long run for the community, and as we continue to grow and grow in the amount of electric that we pay and houses that we provide this for, our ability to bundle our electric rate is going to increase. And it's going to increase our purchasing power, which means we're going to get it at a cheaper rate. So in the long run, we think this is going to be a cost-saving endeavor for Frederick Living as a whole. We think it's going to lessen resident anxiety related to their electric bill significantly. And it will enable us to take immediate looks at those individuals whose prices skyrocket, who aren't exactly telling us that their prices have skyrocketed, and proactively address those instances, because we'll be able to see it immediately. That's our ultimate goal. That's what we're going to build toward. More information is going to be shared with you, but that's what we're going to offer to all cottage residents. We're not going to offer it to new cottage residents, but that's what we're building toward. Okay? Turns out I didn't need the podium. Steve, do you have anything that you would like to introduce or talk about?
Sure, I'll just add on to that as and Mike, thanks for taking on the topic. And this is a kind of a campus and infrastructure best practice. I've been around these kinds of things for 20, 25 years. And as we grow, it's really incumbent on us as the enterprise and on your behalf to do things like this kind of consolidation. So ultimately what would happen over time, and this would be years into the future, once the first thing is this first step that Mike described, voluntary. We would take your bills, be paying for those. It would start to consolidate all that. It is more paperwork and bookkeeping on our part, but only for a season. But at some point in the future, working with PECO, and we've already started some of those discussions. We don't do this on our own. We have an energy consultant that we've used for many years out in Lancaster County. They cover this whole area of southeastern Pennsylvania, so they have also been consulting here. They know the experts at PECO, et cetera. But ultimately, what you would do is out by the road, out by Big Road someplace, we'd pick a spot where the electric already basically comes onto campus, and we'd put a big piece of what they call switch gear, a main piece of switch gear that also has one big meter in it. Now, this is already what happens for the apartments. It already happens for Oak Tree because that's all consolidated. It doesn't have its, I guess somewhere it has its own separate meter and the transformers that go with that, et cetera. But that consolidation then, what this energy consultant that we use is able to do is broker that energy. And we can broker our electric consumption. We have PPL out in Lancaster County. Y'all have PECO here. There are energy enterprises that's all they do, is they broker electric rates, they broker gas rates. And what it really means over time is we can purchase, on behalf of Frederick Living, we can purchase our electricity for sort of pennies on a dollar. Now, we had brokered rates that were, when everybody else was paying 9 cents per kilowatt hour, we were paying 2.9 cents per kilowatt hour. It's a tremendous savings. The other thing that we try to do is from the actual consumption of the energy, the load in all the buildings, you start to look at all the fixtures. Lots of, I know I'm digging really deep here, sorry. Compact fluorescents, that was a big deal, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Oh, everybody needs to get away from incandescent bulbs and go to compact fluorescent bulbs. Well, now we have LED technology. Again, as the years go, technology gets better and the prices come down and come down. So many places, no harm, no foul. There's nothing wrong with the lamps, but they're still compact fluorescent lamps because they haven't blown out yet. But one of the things that we do then is start to gather all of that kind of programming and how, in the midst of the buildings, can we get rid of the old fluorescent bulbs, put in new LED bulbs, more affordable and better technology, longer life, 50,000 hours that you get out of an LED lamp, those kinds of things. So it's a comprehensive, sort of a 10,000-foot view. And what Mike described this morning is just a first step, very simple first step, again, voluntary. But I wanted to cast a little bit of that bigger picture. That's how we would look at it from that enterprise standpoint. At some point in the future, in that conversation with PECO, we could plop that big piece of switchgear that I mentioned, and it has one meter. Now that is sole metered in one spot, we can broker that energy at a much better rate, which is great for all of us. That's it.
Thanks, Steve. And we're off and running.
I have a couple of questions, but would we be able to hook up a generator to that so we wouldn't have long power outages?
That is, in concept, sure. Yeah, now that's something that we would need to look at on the campus. Does it fit in your particular setting? One of the things that we're sensitive to is how do we reproduce that or help folks reproduce that? So are there 2 or 3 generator manufacturers and styles? What are they consuming? Are they consuming propane? Where would those tanks go? I know we already have that setting a couple places on campus. So to be continued, that's a good question.
Okay, my next question is a strange one, but we've been talking at the dinner table, and the other night, a lot of us had power outages that were different. Some, the lights just flashed and they kept going as usual. Like us, we had ours off 5 minutes, maybe 4 times. How can that be?
That's a great question. I don't know. Oftentimes what could be helpful with that, and maybe you already have some of those details, get those kinds of details to Mike or to Albert so that we can investigate that further and find out, was there a certain breaker that went out someplace or something, or transformer that might be having a problem. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
always
a
good
good question.
information. Those kinds of details, a date and a time, and the description is always helpful.
Just a comment. You mentioned about people that change the generation or the transmission, and their bill goes higher and they forget to change it back. I sympathize with those people, but that was an individual decision, and they have to know at 3-month period they should regroup and cancel that obligation. Number 2 is some people keep their thermostats at 76, some at 66. And that's just the comfort level they live in. So I'm not sure how all this comes into play. My question would be, roughly per kilowatt hour, what percentage do you think that can be reduced by dealing with PICO? Because that to me is the key for the overall electric cost.
Sure, that is a great question, and we won't have that answer in the short term. So I apologize for passing on that second question. That's going to be years into the future that we would know, okay, here's the kind of reduction we'll be able to get when we broker that and things. Could it be a 30% reduction? Could it be a 45% reduction? To be determined. And, you know, again, these are plans that we're attempting to make for 5, 8, 12 years from now, not in the immediate. We have no idea what's going to happen to our energy production or consumption as a society between now and then. Over time, the technology gets better, things should get more affordable. Back to the first part, I totally with you that somebody, you know, they change their generation is happening from here, the transmission's coming through PICO, et cetera. Some of those practices are predatory practices, and that's what we see in the background. Folks didn't even realize that they went with a different generation. This one's got green energy in it. Oh, they make it sound really good. All this other stuff. They unwittingly sign up for the thing. And then 90 days later, it reverts back to this rate that's double or triple what it should have been for that generation rate. So, understood. Good point, good questions. As far as that, the future and knowing what that kind of a reduction would be, we know it would be better. We know from, and again, I would know that from my background as well, when you do this, it's to the benefit of the physical plant. It absolutely is better for the property and the physical plant.
Multiple questions. The first one has to do with, we have about 6 people that have generators. We put them in because PICO was constantly out electric. They go off all the time, but it's been better. They used to only off for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and something. Every once in a while, half an hour. So they won't be affected, am I right? They would go on as they do now, okay? And it's seamless. There's a surge protector, and they go off reading the line the other way. So my first question is, they have to still be able to work, because we paid a lot of money to put those in. Okay, am I right? Because you made a comment, you're not sure, I don't know how you made the comment, but I want to make sure that they still are activated the same way, because they really don't affect the actual electricity.
Yeah, and I don't know any of those details about the transfer switches they may or may not have. I am not privy to any of those kind of details, so you would know those details much better than I do.
I thought I heard you say, I'm not sure they could work with a system.
Oh, no, I'm sure they could work with it,
Make
but
sure.
what's our ability to reproduce that on
The
campus?
second question is, right now, PECO is charging 11.2 cents a kilowatt. Now, we get a break from October bills to May bills, that part of that bill's in April. And it's right now 0.07339, when the normal's 11.2, okay? That's based on the fact that we have heat pumps, whether it's a geothermal or whether it's an air heat pump, okay? So it comes down to, if you have people go into the program, they're going into the program you already have. So if we're paying 11.2 cents, what is your rate at this point based on what you're saving because you have a bulk rate?
And great question, Lou, and I would say, I jotted that down. That's a question for our energy consultant. That's why we offshore that to our energy consultant. That's not something that I'm gonna know, but those are the exact kind of things that he would know who to negotiate with at PECO. So let's say we have 99 homes, 99 meters here, and we bring 78 of those onto our books. He can go back to PECO and say, out of 99 meters, we have 78 of them that are gonna be consolidated down. What kind of a deal can you give us? Here's, out of those, the meadows are the ones that have the heat pumps, et cetera. That's what we use the energy consultant for, and they know how to broker that, who to talk to at PECO, who to talk to at PPL to be able to do those very conversations.
But they're already doing it here. Okay, so my question is, are they just, Mike said new people would have to go into the program, people can voluntarily go into the program. So if they go into that program, I guess what I'm asking for, are you saving money right now? Which means if they go into the program, they should do better. I mean, to go
Sure.
into it, you
And-
have to be doing better. If you go into it, it's costing you more money, it didn't make sense.
What if instead of 0.07339, it's 0.0628? Yeah, that would be the goal, is like, sure, if we're consolidating it, it's better on everybody's behalf to know, okay, this is under a different consolidated control. We have one person to talk to that now controls 78 meters. These are all just scenarios, obviously. But good questions, stay tuned, and that's why Mike kind of presented it that way. Don't try and read to the end of the story because we're not there yet. These are things that would happen in months to come.
Just a question. Does that mean that everybody would be paying the same amount on their monthly bill? So if my electric bill now is 200 and someone's paying 700, would that average out? What about the person that has the upstairs that requires more electric?
So here's, again, conceptually, how we are planning to approach this. If you, resident X, Y, or Z, raises your hand and say, all right, I want to try this out. I want to join this program. I'm tired of paying my electric bill. I'm tired of looking at my meter. I just want to know what the cost is going to be each month and simplify this sort of process. How we would do it, how we have discussed doing this, is we'd say, okay, Leroy, great, you want to do this. Sounds good. What we need, in order to get this done, we'll need to go through your electric bills over the course of a year, or as far back as we can get it. We're going to understand what your usage is. We're going to present that against the specific rate that we can get, and then that's how we're going to develop that monthly fee, and we're going to spread that out over the course of a year in an even fashion with your specific accommodation, with your specific usage. That's how we're going to start this. Now, when we get to a point where we're 10 years down the line and everyone else is in this program, we have this all together, it'll probably get mushed into monthly fees in some way, shape, or form. But for this voluntary start, that's how we're going to do it.
And back to the monthly fee determination, that's why monthly fees are different depending on the size and shape of your cottage. So not everybody pays the same $1,100 a month, across all different sizes and shapes. They're different. This one's a little bigger. This one's has a different number of floors, windows, a view. This one's older. This one's newer. All those kinds of things enter into what those monthly fees are, and that's why one of the reasons that we do that. and we had that flexibility to say, okay, it's bigger square footage, it should have a higher monthly fee to cover the electricity that's used on that second floor. But again, great questions, but these are details that we will absolutely vet out and get to in months into the future.
We're in a cottage, we have a heat pump, and so we can go back and forth between heat and air conditioning if we have like warm days. We can do that just by flipping a switch. That'll continue to be the way they'll work?
Operationally, the way that things work, this won't change it at all. This is strictly billing. So if you're getting a bill from PECO for X amount of dollars each month, and that fluctuates, it waxes and wanes, you keep your eye on it, and what we would do in that particular scenario is we'd go through, you've been here for over a year now? How long have you been here? 13 months. I was going to say just about over a year, right? So we'd go back through your bills over the course of a year. We'd look at how much usage you're doing each month. We determine what the rate is that we can get, and then we would say, all right, here's going to be your monthly, here's going to be the addition to your monthly fees. So your electric payments go away. You're not paying any checks to PECO. You're not doing anything of the sort. It goes up by this amount each month, and it stays at that amount.
So it's like budget billing, it's always the same.
It would always be the same. We're not going to, charge you different each month in the way that PECO would. We would just even it out over the course of a year. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I encourage all of you to join. We really want it to work.
Will these changes affect the regular apartments here?
Okay, that leads me to believe that folks who live in cottages are irregular, the way that you asked that question. That's not what you meant, right? No, it would not. This would be individual cottage by cottage.
I understand that the apartments already have this implemented. Is there a way that you could let us know how the people like it, how much their bills have gone up this winter with it being so bad? Did they stay the same, or did you have to move up? Are they happy with the plan they have? Would they rather be us, you know what I mean?
Or not entirely. Could you peel that onion back a little bit more?
Since the apartments already have it, I would like to hear from some of them if they like the plan that they have and it has been a savings to them and they're very happy with it. Since it's already implemented there, I'd like to hear what they have to say.
I don't know.
But we don't change monthly fees throughout the year. So the short answer is there was no change, depending on, a good winter or a bad winter, there's no change in their monthly fee. And that monthly fee is what covers the electricity. So hopefully everybody in the apartments loves their plan, because no matter how, if they have it, and that's planned into that from the building management standpoint. This is just apartments, and I know I'm kind of going down a rabbit trail here, but in an apartment setting, if the one neighbor has it at 78 and loves it that way, and the other has it at 66 and loves it that way, in a building that actually evens out because of the seepage thermal seepage you have between the walls and up and down and that whole thing. It finds its own par over time. But that's one of the reasons that we don't have to come back to you and say, like, oops, we had a bad December and really, heavy electric bill, so now your monthly fee in the apartments is going to go up by $60 that month or $120 that month. Like, we would never do that. We're setting them for the whole year and it's staying the same.
And to add to that, and then to kind of bring it back to a question Frank asked, well, someone likes being at 65. They aim that way. And some people like being at 75. So what do you do for that? In the short term, we do what the plan is, which is to individualize things. In the long term, when you spread that out over 199 cottages, and when you spread that out over a lot of different electric fees, what you do is you say, okay, that's the cost of doing business. That's the cost of living in a community, right? In that sort of way. That's the long-term thinking as it relates to this. Long-term thinking, again, we think that through logic, numbers, and experience at other places, that we're going to be able to reduce our electric costs for everyone in these spaces with everyone on board. We think that it will remove frustration, anxiety, questions, nerves related to those bills. And again, we'd be able to understand immediately if something's funky with your particular space, because we would have access to that information immediately, just like we do in other spaces on campus.
Changing the subject, we want to talk about plans for Easter dinner. We have our dining folks here. That might be something interesting to talk about. Christina?
Hello, everyone. All right, so Easter is coming up. We developed a menu yesterday, so we'll post that to, actually, Emily, that might be a good thing for us to put on the apps together today. Someone's getting access to the app. So we'll do that today. We'll put that up there, and that'll be reservations. So you'll call the same line that we call Fireside to put the reservation in. So that'll be coming. We're doing a traditional dinner, so ham, sweet mashed potatoes. I forget everything else, but you'll see it on the app later today and on the screens. Any questions about that? All right.
It's too early. I'm not letting you leave just yet.
I was concerned about the vents, the ductwork in Oak Tree. This last year, I've been getting a lot more dust, this white fine dust. And I don't know that they have been cleaned since I've been here, and that's 11 years.
Al, I see Al writing that down. Al, is there anything you want to share on that, or just taking that note and going from there? Al's being a trooper at the moment. He is slightly under the weather. So he is here for this and a little tour with Steve Muller and I, and then he is headed home. And I'm going to be very judicious about handing him the microphone.
This is extremely positive for dining. The prime rib the other week was absolutely delicious. Okay. But we have to understand, prime rib is usually medium rare. If you overcook it, it gets tough. Okay. But a lot of people like it more well done.
Thank you, Lou.
I'm having the same problem with white dust all over my house. And I know my vents are dirty. Maintenance came in and said they'll come back and do it. But then a friend of mine mentioned John had a couple nosebleeds, and now we have humidifiers. And the girl said to me, that dust is from the humidifier. It lets off a protein that makes it. It lets off a protein that's what's making this white dust. So I'm not sure which one it is. Is it the vents or is it my humidifier? Never had it before. I don't know.
I don't know that answer either. Why did I look at Al first?
All the meadows have humidifiers. There's a special filter that goes in there. As that filter, water runs over it, it starts to deteriorate. And the most important part of that is to check them midwinter and to get them out of there before the spring starts and you turn on your air conditioning, because that creates the white dust. It literally falls apart.
Does anyone have any other questions for Lou? Thank you, Lou. I appreciate that.
When I moved in, I was told that every year you would be cleaning the windows. In my own home, when I couldn't do it, I hired someone to do that. Now, I've been here coming up on 2 years in June. No one has ever cleaned those windows, so, and I've heard tales of 8 years before they come and clean them again. So what is the practice? Do you come? How often do you come?
Sorry, Mike. I'll make sure I disinfect it after.
You're good.
Yeah. So, windows. We are going to start following the same protocol that Garden Spot Village does, which is the windows will get clean if you. It's like a paper service. Service. So it will be charged to you if you want the windows clean. You can make an appointment through housekeeping, or if you live in a cottage, we will have an outside vendor that he will come over and clean the windows inside and outside at a cost. I haven't negotiated the price with him yet, but the same guy that we use at Garden Spot Village, he was very reasonable. With that, he will come over in a week and do anyone that wanted to do the windows. Apartments, the same thing. The housekeepers could do the windows at a cost. It takes a lot of time to do that service. Steve, you know a little bit more about also in Gardens about how we did it, so you might want to add a few more things about that.
Yeah, so I haven't read through the Frederick Living resident agreement, but the house cleaning, at least for our experience at Garden Spot Village, house cleaning is a part of your duties in that space. I don't know if window cleaning, I don't know if Emily would know, Mike would know, but based on that, we don't want folks to have dirty windows. So to Al's point, we try and find a great service that's close by that will do it affordably. And I think what we've negotiated in years past is $5 per pane is what it comes down to. And they'll do, yeah, up and down, right. So inside and outside. Beyond that, if there are institutional windows, like the windows in the building, we'll figure that out with our own staff, or again, an outside service, that kind of a thing. And then if it's in between cleanings by the professional service that's from outside, we can do that with our own housekeeping staff. It's a little more frustrating for them because they're not just professional window cleaners. They kind of are, they do everything. So we would figure out a fee for that. So in between cleanings, something splashed on a window and, hey, can somebody come clean that? We can certainly do that through housekeeping, but that would be for that housekeeping fee.
We used to clean them every 2 years. We did. They would rotate.
We used to, yes. We are going to change that process.
That should also include the screens to be cleaned.
I sat in this room quite a while ago, a couple years ago. We had our windows washed. The big discussion at that time in this meeting was if they were going to do the inside as well as the outside. Now we're at the problem where they're not even going to do our outside. What is going on?
What is going on? Okay. Looking at the time that it takes, looking at other use. No, well, you through everyone. The way that we're looking at the way time is used from our housekeeping staff, we feel that their usage, their time, is best spent in other ways, and that this is something that it would be useful to utilize the service for. That's the short of it.
Will you provide step ladders and everything else so that when I climb up the step ladder and I fall off, that you would take care of the responsibility?
No, we will not provide step ladders.
So will marketing no longer tell prospective residents, because we were told when we came in that every second year the windows will be washed, so that won't happen?
Usually, when we discuss a change of process, we have a different way of communicating this information. The way that it came out today probably isn't the best, right? Comes out of the question answered in coffee and conversation. So, imagine that this wasn't answered. What we would do is we would probably front load it in a similar fashion and then supply that information in writing at a later particular time, which is kind of the backwards way that we're doing that now. So, more information will be available in a written form, and that's how we'll proceed in that way. And yes, marketing will certainly have that information as well.
I only asked that because we know some on the waiting list, and they specifically mentioned they were glad that the windows were taken care of. So,
The one thing I will remind you of is that when they cleaned the siding, we had cleaned our windows, and our windows were absolutely filthy after that. I don't think I should have to pay to redo my windows. When you guys are cleaning the siding, that just isn't right, okay? And they're filthy right now, because we had cleaned them right before they came.
I'll change the subject a little bit. Parking for staff. Are they told when they start here where to park? And where is that area? I know it used to be all the way in the back of the bistro.
It still is. So yes, upon hire, they are asked to park in the lot over yonder. I think we can do a better job of policing that work.
I noticed a lot of them are
Yes.
parking at the bistro. You come over for dinner,
Yep.
and it's pretty much full.
Mm-hmm. So we should be parking kind of as far away as possible, essentially, to make it as open as possible for residents and guests. That's the short of it. I think there is an opportunity to police that better amongst our staff. That is something actually that we have been discussing with our HR team as recently as Wednesday. So it is noted, it has crept up. It sometimes waxes and wanes. It's crept up again, so we need to be more proactive. I agree.
if our cottages need to be power washed, will we then be responsible for paying for that also?
You're looking at me shaking your head.
That's part of the service, yeah.
So, Mike, I'll make a couple comments. What we're really beholden to is the resident agreement. So I'm going to encourage all of us to kind of go back to that and comb through. I apologize if folks were sort of promised window cleaning every 2 years. If it's in the resident agreement, we absolutely would do that. Cleaning of spaces in independent living is on the resident for that space. That cleaning is not part of that monthly fee. We talked about the monthly fee earlier. That's one of the ways that we keep the monthly fee reasonable is it's independent living. Wherever you came from, you were cleaning there. You come here, independent living, you clean here as well. But the exterior, that's something that we're concerned about from the aesthetics of it, but also the longevity of it. And are we doing well to take care of the outside of the building? We would take care of the roof and the gutters and everything else. We would take care of the exterior cleaning as well. That is in the monthly fee. And you won't see that mentioned in the resident agreement as your responsibility, because that's something that's on us, as would be the sidewalks in the driveway and landscaping and all those other kind of things. So just on the whole, big picture, I would send us all back to that resident agreement to see these are the things we can expect and these are the things we wouldn't expect. Back to Perry's comment, I don't like the idea of you getting the ladder and going up and doing your own windows. That's why we try and have a reasonable fee. I understand you can absolutely do that. I would encourage you to get a squeegee that's on a pole, because I do that at my own home, because I'm not getting up on a ladder to do that. But I scrub and squeegee my own windows with a squeegee that's on a pole. But our ability to get an outside vendor that can come in and do them very affordably, that's why we would do that. So we want to, yes, it's something you end up paying for. You can do it yourself, but you don't have to do it yourself if we have an affordable resource from the outside.
doing this since we've been here, cleaning every two, is that in the contract or not in the contract? I don't know.
We'll look for it. We'll have to look.
It's something they just said they were gonna do.
We will take a look. So,
So maybe
so-
you've been getting it for free for many years. Has been
So-
for that.
I'll provide a little bit of an overview, and then I will close this particular window, if you will. So, again, puns are always intended. So, we have a little bit more on our end to do in terms of clarity and in terms of communication. The way that we presented this information was a little bit cart before the horse and a little bit out of what we would hope to do. So, I apologize for any confusion that this may have caused. We certainly are planning in this direction, but that doesn't mean that we have all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed, so more to come. Fair? The window's closed, Bruce. I've been going to physical therapy for the past 3 weeks for 2 days a week. I swear they're trying to make me worse so that I keep going to physical therapy. I don't know if that's true for anyone else. Not ours, of course.
I have a boxwood question. The boxwoods looked nice at one time, and then they started dying off, and we pulled them out. After looking at it when they pulled them out, I said, you know, that doesn't look so bad. We could probably do without the boxwoods. So I asked probably about 8 to 10 people what their thoughts were, and everybody said, you know what, we don't really need those boxwoods back. It's got to be expensive, and each year they have to prune them too. You probably have a committee that's already decided what to do.
Al?
We are not putting boxwoods back. That answers that question. I've been talking to Scott Ruth in Garden Spot Village, and we are partnering together to replace a lot of those boxwoods that we removed, but not big boxwoods, but different variety of plants. He's bringing his crew sometime in April, like they did last time when they came over to remove them. They're gonna help us plant new plants, different varieties. So like that, if a disease comes back to them, we don't kill all of them at once. It might be just in one here or there. It's a lot easier to recover from than having all the same bushes die at the same time. So they are, right now that's a plan in the planning process. Scott has a plan. He came I think last week and he walked around some areas or drove around, took some pictures, and then he's in the process of securing all those plants at a nursery, plant nursery, to have them ready for April. I'm working together with our team here on Bates, because then Bates will be doing the mulching right after. We asked Bates to hold off doing any mulching in those areas. They're gonna probably mulch in most of the places, general areas, but around the cottages where the boxwoods were removed, they're gonna hold off until we plant new plants. So that, like that, when they put the mulch, it looks nice and it's not disturbed. So hopefully that answered the question about that.
My apartment overlooks where Aspen is, and there's no landscaping there at all to look at. So that when you your view is really dismal. Is it possible to put a couple of, I don't care if they're boxwoods, put whatever you want there to make it a little bit more attractive for people in the apartments who have that whole expanse of nothing?
Yeah, Ryan is back here. He's listening right now. I don't know if he wants to talk or not, but we definitely will look into it to see what we can add to make it look better. Yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't say dismal, but okay.
I notice now that I've been going back to my cottage with a lot of the grass being ripped up from the snow removal equipment. Will that be taken care of in the spring?
Absolutely, yes. I think Ryan already started to take care of some of that, but Bates is aware of it. They were here earlier this week, and they did a walk around, and we were talking about that kind of stuff. So yes, it will be repaired.
I don't know how many of you use the walkway out here, which is the main hallway. But that white spot just outside the door, that's my fault. Because someone spilled something and didn't clean it up. And I waited for 2, maybe 3 weeks. And finally I said something, and she said, I'll take care of it. The next day, that huge white spot is out there. And I went to her and I said, thank you for cleaning that up, but, and she said, I know, it shows how dirty the rest of the carpet is. That's our main hallway. I wouldn't have that in my home, and this is my home, and that bothers me.
Yes, we are working on that spot, on that specific carpet right here, to get it cleaned up. Yes, I agree.
I have 2 questions. One about the deterioration of the sidewalks in certain areas. They tend to be ripped up. And also, we need a pothole patrol because there are some potholes on the east side of campus, particularly around the turn there. And a lot of the macadam has been separating, quite a few large cracks. So I think if that's not taken care of, in the future, you're going to pay for it. Thank you.
Absolutely, we are taking care of that stuff. I think you're talking about the corner back here. Yes, we're taking care of that. We actually talked to a sidewalk person that is going to come over and patch up some of these sidewalks too that are breaking apart.
So just to clarify what we do there. So when it comes to paving, when it comes to our roads here, driveways, and sidewalks, we create every year a capital budget, and we have a variety of areas that we budget for. Sidewalks and paving are certainly within that bucket. So we take a look and we estimate how much we can spend in that particular area, and then we identify the worst of the worst, and we try to make those dollars stretch as much as we possibly can each year. There is a solid chance that every year we don't get to everything. We aim to get to the most important items and, like I said, stretch those dollars as much as possible. So, are we going to get to everything on pothole patrol? No. Is it good to know so that we can identify which are the worst ones that we can get to? Yes. That's just a expectation setting in that scenario.
Entirely different subject. As I sit in this room, today there's room for everyone. Within the last week, I've been to 3 different events where this room has been packed to the gills with standing room only. How do we accommodate for that when we get 45 new apartments, which could be 50, 60, 70 more people?
First off, isn't it nice that you've been here 3 times in a week and it's been full? That's a really good sign. Let's start there. That's life, that's activity, That means Dan and Emily and everyone else are doing their jobs and people want to be together. So thumbs up. Let's start there. Secondarily, we are, as we're we've shared this before, as we're bringing aboard new residents, as we're planning to bring aboard new residents, we are planning on looking at the entirety of our amenity spaces from the Magnolia House door to the bistro doors. What does that include? A variety of things. We're taking a fresh look at all of it. What does that mean for this room? For this room, there's not much you can do in terms of expansion, period. You go behind us, there's a whole bunch of mechanical space there and here. You go this way, you're in the kitchen. You go this way, you're going to be in what's our new PT, OT space, or you're outside. So in short, in this room, I don't know what that answer is. But everywhere else around it, hopefully we can create scenarios where there's places to be, there's social settings, there's overflow, whatever it may be. I don't know. But in short, these walls, that's going to be a tough one.
Would it be possible to plan for your new apartments and have that include a nice, large auditorium space that'll be connected to these apartments?
In that building, you mean? Yes. Question being, would it be possible to plan an auditorium in that new building? When you're building a new space like that, at a significant investment, especially nowadays when buildings such as that are so expensive, spaces that are non-revenue generating are at a premium. So building a brand new apartment complex, keeping entrance fees and monthly fees at a reasonable rate, not putting an extra strain on the community, and taking away a big taking a chunk out of that to place a big auditorium is not a cost-effective measure. So at this point, that is not in our strategy or plans. I didn't want to just say no. I wanted to give you the reasons.
So I wanted to echo what Mike said about, isn't it wonderful that we have numerous events during the week that folks want to come out to? I think that's great. Two things that I think of, we've done some of this at Garden Spot Village and then almost suffered the consequences of it, so to speak. Improving the technology in the room, so better cameras or numerous cameras, and the behind the scenes that supports all that. So we have enough technology on campus to be able to broadcast things, obviously, in apartments and in cottages. But when you improve that, it makes that experience at home that much better. Maybe we want better audio on that, or we want high definition on that. We can continue to work on those things. Well, then that means somebody's comfy in their jammies on their couch, watching in high definition with good audio, and they actually feel very comfortable doing that, and they don't come out to the room. We've had that boomerang effect at Garden Spot, where now we have, when we have our coffee conversation, we might get 30 or 40 people, and we've got 200 or 300 people at home watching, which is okay. That's not a problem. We also, and we do an interconnect, to Mike's point. We actually have a phone number that you can call into, and it has voice to text that it actually then gives us that question. Somebody calls in and leaves the message, and it prints that out for us, and we read that in real time, just as if they were sitting in the room. And for texting as well, and sometimes people send us pictures and all that. So we can reinforce that, but what that means is, now we don't fill the room for coffee and conversation, because folks are literally sitting in their jammies at home with a cup of coffee to do this. The other thing that we can do from a programming standpoint, and this isn't something you do just in a short period of time, but working with the event planning, with performers that would come in and things, is you do multiple shows. So if it is a program where, you know, sometimes you can't do it if it's a student group from a school that's singing or something like that. They really can't come out for 2 shows. But the attempt is, especially if it's really something that's going to fill the room, a special piano recital or something like that that's happening, can we do it twice? Can we do it at a 5:30 and 7 o'clock, or 7:30 if it's a PM kind of a thing? Can we do it a Friday night and a Saturday night? And then that doubles your capacity of the room and your opportunity to do that. So there are multiple ways that we can coexist with the space. I will support Mike and what he said from the non-revenue producing space. We really feel blessed that we think we can build this apartment building. If we added other common space like an auditorium to it, we wouldn't be able to do it. This day and age, you can't find the financing because everything is so expensive. The construction costs are so expensive. Or we would be attempting to have an entrance fee that was so high, it's very, very difficult. Then you have occupancy issues, or you never can actually fill it up, and the monthly fees would be that much higher. So you're in this pull and tug of how do we build a building that's very functional and a wonderful place to come live, keep the entrance fees down, keep the monthly fees down. Well, some of the sacrifices are we're going to be sharing the common space. Now that's why we made the commitment. Again, this room, these walls can't really move because of all the things that Mike mentioned. But down the hall from us, we can improve that. We can give that area a facelift. We can repurpose different spots so that we have different ways that we can gather, kind of making some atrium and meet and greet space there that we haven't had here before. There are numerous things that we can do with that existing spot to make it very agreeable for all of us and for those new folks that are coming to join us. So just some other thoughts.
In reality, I've been to 3 memorials here recently in which it was packed. I ran out of programs. People were standing around the walls. So it is a reality. It's not just for performances. It's for ourselves.
Fair point. I think we did it, everyone. Almost.
I would just encourage everybody to read the Destination magazine. It's excellent, and there's a wonderful article on Mike.
Thank you. I'm autographing if anybody wants them. They're collector's items. Thank you, everyone. Have a great we made it to spring, too. Have a great first day of spring. Thank you for coming out, everyone. Thank you for a good conversation. We appreciate it.